Hi readers, Lee here. Welcome back to my channel, Lila Wanders and Reads, and welcome to my weekend books, which this week is on a Wednesday instead of Monday, but I'm still using the same parameters. I call the week complete either Saturday or Sunday, dependent. I thought that I was going to have 4 books complete this week, but I only have 3. I'll tell you why when we get to the book that I'm currently reading, but let's get on with it. So I'm kind of in my women gothic-y phase, and the first book that I chose to read this week falls in that category, and that was King Nix by Kirsten Bakis. I've had this book for quite some time, and I just picked it up this week because I don't know why, but it fit my gothic-y phase. Let me tell you what it's about. A haunting mystery about lost girls and the woman driven to find them. Anna Fort wants to be a supportive wife, even if that means accompanying her husband for the winter of 1918 to a remote frozen island estate so he could finish his book as the guest of an eccentric millionaire. When she learns 3 girls are missing from a school run by their host, Anna realizes finding them is up to her, even if that means risking her husband's career and possibly her life. Her husband's masterpiece in progress features strange meteorological anomalies along with wild speculation about facts he believes scientists hide from the public. Most people think Charles Fort is a crackpot. That's about to change now that wealthy Claude Arkell is his patron. Yet Anna is sure something's not right on Prosper Island, though the alarming return of her troubles makes her question her own sanity. Is the figure in the woods really the ghost of her long-lost friend Mary, or a product of her disturbed imagination? Accompanied reluctantly by a fellow guest, the elegant and troubled Stella Bixby, Anna embarks on a dangerous quest to find the missing girls before Arkell finds her, or her own mind unravels. I thought that, look, I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 3, maybe 3.5 stars, rounded down on Goodreads. I said I don't know what I think about the end. It did get a little bit wonky for me, but I do know I enjoyed the journey. I felt there was a few holes that didn't get filled to my satisfaction on this. But again, I enjoyed the journey so much. I loved Anna, I loved Stella, and I loved the flashbacks that she had in this. Very atmospheric. I read it on some gray days, I believe, that we had this week, and it was perfect, the perfect atmosphere. I think I read it in front of the fire one day. The next book I finished in one night, and I did not think I would. This is Prophet Song by Paul Lynch. I do a thorough review on YouTube, and I posted it on Monday already. I posted it on Monday for a reason, but I will tell you a little bit about the book now. If you'd like to hear my thoughts, please go over to that video and check it out. One thing important about this is that Paul Lynch chose to write this book with no paragraphs and no quotation marks when people are speaking. I was really worried that that would affect my experience. I do feel like I could have gotten the point as well had there been paragraphs, but about page 240, it worked. His technique worked on me, and I was just racing along, not wanting to pause for breath or chapter. Well, there are chapters, but pause for breath or paragraphs or anything like that. I was in. And again, I finished it in one night, and I did not think I would be able to do that. On a dark, wet evening in Dublin, scientist and mother of 4, Eilish Stack, answers her front door to find the GNSB on her step. 2 officers from Ireland's newly formed secret police are here to interrogate her husband, a trade unionist. Ireland is falling apart. The country is in the grip of a government turning towards tyranny, and when her husband disappears, Eilish finds herself caught within the nightmare logic of a society that is quickly unraveling. How far will she go to save her family? And what, or who, is she willing to leave behind? This was the, like I said, Booker Prize winner for 2023. I don't think I said that in this video. And I've had it since 2023, right after it won the Booker, although I got a shortlisted copy. And I think that I'm glad I waited till now to read it. Last year I did a Booker Prize project where I read many of the books on the Booker Prize long list for 2024. And I think had I not done that and had things not be where they are now, I would not have appreciated this as much. So again, full review or thoughts on my other video that posted on Monday at noon on January 20th, 2025. The last book that I read this week was recommended by one of you guys. Jacob, I think, recommended Robin Hobb, so I immediately ran out and ordered Assassin's Apprentice. I enjoyed this book. I enjoyed Robin Hobb's world building. I did decide not to go on with the series for two reasons. One, I've got a jillion books to read. But two, as I get older, it becomes harder and harder for me to deal with animal deaths. And there are two animal deaths in this book that just broke my heart. And I don't mind having my heart broken, but not over a dead animal. So, sorry. Anywho, if you don't mind dead animals, and you like fantasy, I do recommend this book. This is fantasy, not romantasy, and I loved her world building. Like I said, I liked her characters. This was overall a go for me. I don't remember my rating of it. So this is the first book in a trilogy, but then the trilogy goes on to have more trilogies. So, young Fitz is the bastard son of the noble Prince Chivalry, raised in the shadow of the royal court by his father's gruff stableman. Fitz is treated as an outcast by all the royalty except the devious King Shrewd, who has him secretly tutored in the arts of the assassin. For in Fitz's blood runs the magic skill, and the darker knowledge of a child raised with the stable hounds and rejected by his family. As barbarous raiders ravage the coasts, Fitz is growing to manhood. Soon he will face his first dangerous, soul-shattering mission. And though some regard him as a threat to the throne, he may just be the key to the survival of the kingdom. One thing I want to say about this. Earlier this year, and this week I have not done any DNFs, I don't think. I think those were last week. Earlier this year, I DNF'd a book that my in-person book club was reading because of a lot of info dumping. Assassin's Apprentice had world building and information to give to the reader as well, but she peppers it throughout rather than dumping it all on you in a couple pages. So I really appreciated that, and that is the difference. In fantasy, you've got a world to explain, but I feel like this is a better way to do it than dumping it all on the reader at once. So, like I said, I had hoped to have 4 books completed this week, but I only had 3. Last night, Saturday night, was book club, so I actually went to talk about the book that I DNF'd, and prior to that, I had started Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. I tore through the first half of this book on Friday evening. I had a car service appointment, so I got 2 hours of reading in there, and then I came home and I read until it was like, I've got to put this down, otherwise I'll race through it and won't remember the ending in the morning. Then Saturday, I hesitated to pick it up because I had book club that evening, and I didn't want to get lost in the book or skip book club. So I thought, oh, okay, I'll read when I get home from book club. But no, the Commanders versus the Lions football game was on, and usually I read while football's on, but that game was wild, and so I had to put the book down. So I'm hoping to finish this evening, and it'll be on next week's My Weekend Books. But let me tell you about this book. I take the cover off when I read, and the book is in the other room, so that's why I'm just flapping this around, making a lot of noise. So far, I am really enjoying this book. There is probably around 280, 290 page. There's an abrupt POV switch that kind of threw me out for a bit, but I like this book a lot. There's power in a book. They call them wayward girls, loose girls, girls who grew up too fast, and they're sent to the Wellwood house in St. Augustine, Florida, where unwed mothers are hidden by their families to have their babies in secret, to give them up for adoption, and most important of all, to forget any of it ever happened. 15-year-old Fern arrives at the home in the sweltering summer of 1970, pregnant, frightened, and alone. Under the watchful eye of the stern Miss Wellwood, she meets a dozen other girls in the same predicament. There's Rose, a hippie who insists she's going to find a way to keep her baby and escape to a commune, and Zinnia, a budding musician who plans to marry her baby's father, and Holly, a wisp of a girl, barely 14, mute and pregnant by no one knows who. At this point in the book, they know who. Everything the girls eat, every moment of their waking day, and everything they're allowed to talk about is strictly controlled by the adults who claim they know what's best for them. Then Fern meets a librarian who gives her an occult book about witchcraft, and power is in the hands of the girls for the first time in their lives. But power can destroy as easily as it creates, and it's never given freely. There's always a price to be paid, and it's usually paid in blood. There's moths in here on the cover, and I'm not sure I figure out how that ties in. Anywho, I loved How to Sell a Haunted House. I really like Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. I'm not done with it yet. I know that Hendrix isn't for everyone, but this is not disappointing me, and I can't wait to finish it. Okay, so on the other books I'm reading, my purse book, The almost choked on my own spit. Apologies. I have not made any progress on The Unwomanly Face of War, an oral history of women in World War II by Svetlana Alexievich. This is an English translation that is an oral history of women in World War II across Europe and Russia, but it is Soviet women. And my intent this week was to take this with me to my car appointment and get a couple hours of reading done. However, I got an email notification Friday morning that this had arrived. So on my way to my car appointment, I ran by the house and picked it up, and this did not get touched. So I'm going to try to make a little bit of time today to sit down and at least try to get to the halfway mark, because I'm way behind on my reading, and my intent is to finish this before the end of the month. On the audio side, I am still listening to Bolivar. I've made more progress with this than that, although I have taken some breaks, sometimes to listen to music to like lift my spirits, and sometimes a couple of days I was listening to podcasts about Prophet Song, because with the Booker books, I am trying to do some preparation work before I read them. I really needed to do that for Something to Answer For by P.H. Newby. Didn't need to do as much for Prophet Song, but I wanted to do enough that it would help me get through the book, and I did. One podcast was way spoilery, and I got to a certain point, and I have to turn that off because I have to read the rest on my own. So Bolivar is about Simon Bolivar, who freed 6 countries from Spanish rule and is still the most revered figure in South America today. I know very little about South America. One of my colleagues sent me this book. He lives in Colombia, and so I'm really grateful that he sent me this, and now I'm learning more about South America than I knew before. I have made progress on this. I am on chapter 6, which is not a lot of progress, but it's slower, and I don't speed up the audiobooks when I listen to it, and I've only been listening in the car when I drive. I have got some chores to do today before I settle down to finish Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, so I am going to try to play this inside the house while I do my chores, so I can at least maybe get another chapter or 2 underneath my belt. As for next week, right now, I'm not thinking much behind Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. Yesterday, I posted a video of my February TBR, which I actually have, and I've actually added a book to since I made that post. But I have some ideas on what I want to read next, but it could change. I reserve the right to change my TBR at any time. Normally, I don't have a stack of books that I'm planning to read next, but this year I'm trying something different. Rather than just picking up randomly, I'm trying to kind of focus in on what I'm interested in that time. I'm already thinking about changing up for a different kind of mood after this. So, anywho, that is all for me. I'd love to hear how your reading year is going. How was your reading week? And what do you have plans to read? If you've read any of these books, please let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I love to hear from you, and I try to answer within 24 hours every comment that I receive. Sometimes it takes me a little bit longer. If I receive a comment and I look at it on my phone and I want to give a more detailed response, sometimes I'll wait till I get home and answer it on my computer. Sometimes I'll just answer it on my phone, but I do try to get to every comment. That is all for me. As always, thank you for sticking with me on this journey, and happy reading.